The cost of living crisis has hit the UK hard. It has been caused by a number of different factors. The rising cost of fuel globally, labour shortages and issues with supply chains following Brexit have all had an impact, with notably energy prices skyrocketing over the last month.
The Falklands, on the other hand, has not experienced nearly as much of an effect, but prices have still gone up. Electricity has increased to 29 pence per unit, and the price of food items, already much higher than other parts of the world, has increased by 2.8%, and that's based on a calculation of the average basket of goods. Fuel has increased by 66 pence to 99 pence per litre for diesel since January, but still costs much less than in the UK. But members of the community are already feeling the impact, and at the end of the day, the average person is left with less money in their pocket.
There are various factors in the UK that make it slightly always different from Britain. We would expect to import inflation, but there is a delay because most of our goods are coming from the UK. There can be up to 6 or 8 months delay in prices hitting our shops in the Falklands from the rises in the UK. That's probably accounted for what's happened. It's still high compared with what we've been used to in the last few years, but it has managed to keep inflation down.
One member of the community took it upon herself to create a Facebook group with budgeting tips in order to help those struggling with rising costs. The group now has 751 members.
So I guess when I was shopping and things, I was talking to a lot of people and people were noticing the price of things going up and just generally chatting to people starting to struggle a bit more with money and not really knowing where to start on trying to make it a bit better. So I thought, why don't we all help each other? And that's where the idea came from. Also, Sian Ferguson, who's on the group, has made a really good kind of budget spreadsheet, which is quite simple for people to kind of see what all their outgoings are and what their incomings are and how to save money there. So that's been really helpful. I've been using that a lot since the page started. I think one of the biggest examples is electricity. So my house is a 2-bedroom and I used to pay under £40 a month for my electricity and now it's over 60. So I mean that's quite a significant jump for people who were already struggling with the cost of living. But in terms of food and stuff, that's gone up too. I think not so long ago lettuce was £5. So I mean everything's creeping up there.
Another source of support is the food bank, run by the Seafarers Mission, which started a few years ago and saw a large increase in users during the pandemic. It expected a rise over the winter months, but to their surprise, hasn't seen one so far.
We've only had 27 calls upon the food bank, so I don't know. If I'm honest, I'm quite surprised. The increase in fuel, increase in electricity, whether that means that the changes in income support has helped people, which is brilliant, it's wonderful, positive. I don't know, but we're sort of still kind of holding our breath and waiting, and we're here, and if people need the food bank then their funds are available and we'll respond. It's become an accepted part of society here. Most people certainly know that it's operational. It's quite comforting because times are difficult financially for people, and yet the Falklands still manages in terms of giving, charity giving, still remains way up.
It's clear that the community is pulling together to help one another in typical Falklands fashion, but it does beg the question why purportedly one of the richest places on earth in terms of income per capita would need a food bank at any point, and why it would feel a hit from the increase in costs. The government, for their part, has said that they are in the process of examining the problem and working to improve support.
Social Services introduced the Single Income Support Scheme in October 2021, which aims to help those struggling with bills on their current income move towards self-sufficiency.
They'll come into the department and we will take their details, do a quick sort of assessment of current situation and in a pretty timely manner be able to get back with to see if they're eligible for any income support. Depending on the individual circumstances will depend on how much they'll be eligible for. It's difficult to say exact figures because there are a lot of factors that we have to take into account. Age, number of children, living situations and things like that. So we've had, obviously, after the initial influx when we went live with income support, we are still, even now, having steady people that are accessing the service.
Rising costs raise the issue of inequality in the Falklands, which according to a government-commissioned report in 2020 is similar to levels of inequality in the UK. Some members of the community will of course be harder hit than others. The government believe that inflation in the Falklands will remain around 4.5% to 5% for the foreseeable future, and that they can cope with any increases.
I think we're probably going to see inflation hanging around that level, or perhaps growing a little bit, depending on the proportion that we see of fuel prices and what happens to fuel prices and the amount of consumption there is with that. As it stands at the moment, irrespective of those cost pressures, members made a decision about the price of electricity, and they haven't increased the price of electricity over the last few months, despite some of those prices growing.
There's a limited amount of money that you can spend on supporting people, and you need to make sure you target the maximum amount of money you can to those most in need. The amount of money that we're paying out through the single income supplement scheme means that we're supporting those that need it the most in our community. The amount of money going to them has gone up by 124%.
The policy team are working on what might be possible in terms of supporting those who are struggling with the cost of living at the moment, and that's a live debate amongst members. Incomes have risen. Government pay was increased by a certain amount. Generally what happens is the private sector tends to follow what government looks at in terms of pay increases, and also the minimum wage has been increased above the rate of inflation, as have some allowances.
Ongoing work by the government will need to identify quickly those who might have already felt the pressure of increased costs. And the public will have to be able to manage any further rise, whether that means cutting their spending or receiving local or government support.
So we do encourage people to come in and take our advice on money, budgeting, and any other help and support that we can offer.
We're here, and that's the best thing to say, that if people have a need, then don't be afraid, to ask.
I think it's probably going to continue to get worse until it gets better, and I think we just have to learn to find new ways to help each other, really.